Thanks for joining us today for this Influence Women's webinar. We know that you have lots of things in your schedule and your time is valuable, and so we're always honored when you can join us. We hope that you will encourage others to come along and join us. You can get all the information about the upcoming events and webinars on the website at influencewomen.org. Join us on social media as well and stay connected. We'll see you next time for the next Influence Women's webinar.
Well, let me just say about both of them without going through all of that. They both own publishing companies. They both have multiple books. They both have backgrounds in trauma and therapy. So they understand what people are looking for when they read books. They understand both sides. So both of these women are years into what we're talking about here. So I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to take up our time on that. But I want to follow up with Kristie, what she was just saying, that there's a right audience for you. Michelle, you're a PR expert. What do you say about that? Because I think, I want my book to be for everybody. I'm going to write it for everybody. There is a tendency to want to do that because we want to sell more copies. But how do we get comfortable with the niche of who our book is for, kind of like what Kristie was saying?
I think the bigger thing is your individuality. You have to be comfortable with that. If you're wanting to write for everyone, that's impossible. You don't even have the same opinions as one person, let alone everyone. You can't write for everyone. You have to write your story for yourself and then find your audience. You're not writing for people, or I'm not. You're writing for yourself. You're writing what you know God wants you to put on paper, no matter what it is. And then you have to find your audience after that. And your audience is going to be narrow. It's not, I don't know any audience other, like even fiction books. I have fiction, I have children's books, and I have nonfiction. Neither of those would have the same audience, but especially even in fiction, all, 10 of my fiction books each have a different audience. So you do have to know your audience.
Yeah. And I think knowing your audience is knowing yourself. And I think this
Absolutely.
is a critical part of, knowing your you, because, what you said, Michelle, is if you write for everyone, you really write for no one but yourself, which is fine. You can do that. But if you want to write a book to share with others and to sell to others, you have to know who you are. And with that, you have to know who you're not. So what are the pitfalls y'all find that other people get tripped up on in trying to generalize too much instead of being real specific to who you are and who God's called you to be? Kristie,
I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh, I was about to say, Michelle, go ahead.
Okay, well, let me go then.
Michelle.
When I get a manuscript and it never fails, probably half out of 100, say 50 out of 100 people that send manuscripts in, they always include a sentence that says, I really try to be like this author because she's my favorite author. And that is the biggest pitfall you can get yourself into. You don't want to be like somebody else. You want to write you, because that's what God's called you to be, is you. We're all unique. We're all different. Even though some of us share the same experiences, which is why getting our books out there is great. It helps other people, or it entertains other people. None of us are the same. Be yourself. Be comfortable with who you are. And it's uncomfortable writing, especially a nonfiction. That's not a comfortable process because you're also facing your internal issues as you're writing. I say I get more out of writing than people who read my work do. And so you really have to know yourself, and know what your message is. I mean, know what you're trying to write. Write what you know. Everyone says that, write what you know. Don't be someone else and don't try to be. Just start writing in your own voice. That's what God wants.
Yeah, that's good. Kristie?
I really don't have a whole lot to add to that.
Oh.
But it really is in being confident in who you are, what your message is, and the personality that you have. Like being an individual is a really big part of it. And that's not just in the writing, right? It's even in the conversations around the writing. Like, it is knowing that you have something to say. And if you're already confident in saying it and talking about it, it's just already in your conversation, then moving into writing it, don't change it up. Whenever you're
Right.
talking about it, the person that you are, the confidence that you have, when you're discussing it with someone, when you're giving the expert advice, when you're, even if you're already speaking, let's just say you're a speaker and you don't have a book, but you're thinking about speaking. If you're standing on that stage and you're speaking and you have a message, then you're going to relay the same message into any of the books. Your personality into any of those books. You don't have to switch up because somebody else was a bestseller. Somebody else said it like this. And so then I'm just going to kind of piggyback on that. No,
Yes.
whatever is working for you now. If you can captivate an audience of 5, a classroom of 20,
Yes.
an audience of 100, whatever is captivating them is going to be the same thing you transfer into your books, or into anything that you write. You stay there, because then it's more authentic, right? It comes
Yes.
across like this is really you. And
Yeah.
I feel like too, it helps you to have a better conversation after the books are sold. Somebody walks up to the
Yeah.
table and it's time for you to give an autograph. Well, you don't want to have to switch up. You don't even know how the other person is acting when they wrote their books. You don't know their personality. And so if you wrote it like somebody else, you can't be them at the table. You're going to have to
Yeah.
be yourself at the table when they walk up on you. So
Absolutely.
just be it in your book, be it in your writing, and you're that same person at the table when they walk up to ask you a question about it.
That's good. That's good. So
Yeah.
let's picture this scenario. You've got the book in your mind, you know what you want to write, you know who you are. You sit down, you've got your fingers on the computer, and you're like, no, I got nothing. No, I got nothing. You know, you feel the pressure of wanting to have a day or 5 minutes
Yeah.
of writing, and then you have nothing. You go blank. What do you do then?
Okay, this is a
Michelle?
huge topic for me. Yeah, this
I
is a
know
big one
it's
for me. A lot of people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, writer's block," and that is a common phrase. We've all heard it. But to me, writer and this is fact. Writer's block is really writer's think. You would never be writing something if you hadn't thought about it or experienced it. So you don't want to look at it as, "Oh, I'm blocked and I just can't find the words," because sometimes you just need to stop and think. If you feel like you have that block, then say, okay, it's time for me to stop and think. It's time for me to think it over. It's time for me to mull it over or figure out what I'm trying to say. It's not a negative. We all take times where we have to stop and think. None of
yeah,
us would finish any books if we didn't do that. And so I
yeah,
would never look at that as a negative. I would say, okay, Lord, this is the time that you've got me pausing to think it through. You're wasting your
yeah,
time otherwise. If you're forcing yourself to write, it's a waste.
That's
yeah.
nice. Yeah. I
And
agree
I
with
go
that.
outside. Sometimes I just go look at the birds. If I just get up and take a walk around outside, it opens the walls for me. My creativity comes alive. But that may not work for everybody. But I think you
Right.
have to have a thing you do that
Yeah.
snaps you back into, okay, I'm going to take the pressure off myself and I'm going to sit down. And if I don't have anything, it's not the end of the world. The book's still going to
Yeah.
get written because I'm going to write it. But right now, I need to go take a little walk and I'm going to come back in a minute and give yourself the little break. Kristie, you agree with that?
Yeah. And that is a part of the thinking, right? Because sometimes it's the thought to do something else. So like Michelle was saying, and
Yeah.
like you was like, okay, I'm gonna have the thought to get up and go walk. And you're gonna think more when you go walk. But it could be, let's just say you're writing, it is a guide. I heard someone mention they were writing a guide earlier. Say it is a guide and you just kind of get stuck in the middle of writing that guide. Well, when you stop and think, like Michelle says, then it is, have I covered everything? Is there something else I want to talk about? Is there something I can expound on? And maybe it moves you into a chapter 10. Maybe it
Mhm.
moves you far away from where you are right now, but you have a great idea. Then you can just write that down. It doesn't have to be in the manuscript you've already started. Maybe it's just side notes, but
Mm-hmm.
that stopping and thinking gives you time to go into another place. Maybe it's another place in your book. Maybe it's learning how to rephrase something. Maybe it's even beginning, if it's fiction, beginning to see your characters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like
Yes.
you have this idea of the storyline and the setting, but maybe you don't know what the characters look like. Well, I don't know what to write right now. Well, stop there and see if there may be some characters that you can start describing, like write it down. What do they look like? What do they have on? How do you want them to sound? Like you can
Hmm.
do all of that to kind of relieve you of, I don't know what else to do. Stop and
Yes.
think about something else, or stop and think about, something else to actually do if it doesn't involve writing. But yeah, I'm in total agreement with Michelle. There's no such thing as being blocked. You're not blocked.
Yeah.
You just have to stop
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
don't
And I
force
wanted
it.
to add to something else. I'm sorry, Kristie. I wanted to add
Oh, go
to
ahead.
that. You don't have to know yourself. People say, well, I don't really know myself enough to be confident to write. Write for yourself. Just write to yourself. Write it like you're
Good.
writing a journal or a diary, even
That's
if it's
good.
fiction, because you're comfortable with yourself alone. You're comfortable
That's
with your
good.
own truth alone. And so you start there if that's where you need to start. If you don't feel like, a lot of people get stuck in, oh God, but if I write that, what is my mom going to think? Or if I
Yeah.
write that, what is the world going to think? What is my children going to think? And you can't write for other people. You just have to seriously get all of that out of your mind, not worry about who's going to like it and who's not, because plenty of people are not going to like everything about you, but plenty of people are. And that's where
Yeah.
God's calling you to.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. That's so
I
good.
think that is good. I've written
Hmm.
some personal things. You don't have to get into the weeds, the details of, traumatic situations or anything like that. And I think, especially as Christian writers, it's not about what we've been through, it's what God has brought us to. And I think the
Yeah.
emphasis in the messaging is, yeah, I might have gone through something, but what God brought me to is the point. The point of the story is you're going to make it through. I made it through, but you're going to. And sometimes the only way through is to. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important. So let's talk about, as authors, we always hear, do you want to self-publish? Do you want to traditional publish? And I want to tie that in with the question of the platform, because most of the time a traditional publisher is going to say, well, what's your platform? How many people do you speak to every month, and what's your following like? So let's talk about that platform, the inform through platform, because we do want to have a platform that we're building, but I think at the same time we have to remember that we're building, right?
Yeah.
We're not there
Mhm.
yet. So Kristie, why don't you start us off with inform through the platform, because we are informing people, but how important is the platform that we're building?
Yeah. And I like how you say you need to know where you are. Because one of the things I wrote down in my notes earlier, and it's not something I've touched on in the past, is knowing where you are, knowing
Mm-hmm.
where your audience is, and then where can we meet together, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we are already in the community. Where if you're already in the community, that's your platform. You don't
Mm-hmm.
automatically have to go to social media because you hear that social media is the place to be. Become more aware of it, educate yourself on it, maybe take some classes, or maybe just hire someone to kind of build the platform for you. But if that's not already your place, then your audience probably isn't there.
Right.
Not that they don't exist there, but you already have one where you are. So let's just say it's a church group, and there are some women that you meet with, and maybe you just talk to them after church. Well, that's probably your audience if you're constantly talking about some of the same things, and then you know that you have a word for them, or you have some expertise they can use. Maybe it's on your job, and maybe you are already on social media, right? So wherever your platform is where you are, and then it's thinking about where my audience is. So if my audience is already where I am, then I can meet there. If I'm in the community, I can do meetup groups. I can schedule workshops, seminars, or just like, little, maybe I can do a book club, little meet and greets, brunches, things like
Yeah.
that. If I'm already out and meeting people, I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
have to go to social media unless I'm going to create an event and I want to bring in that crowd or find my audience there. You have to realize you already have one if you're somewhere. So then let's say you are on social media, you're already using it, but maybe you're not that familiar. Again, go educate yourself, get the resources, maybe hire someone. But it doesn't mean you have to automatically start running ads, right? Because
Right.
there's a conversation somewhere on the platform you're using. We're going to specifically talk about Facebook. Let's just say it's Facebook. You got a message or something that's near to your heart. You maybe already post about it. You got a couple people that like it. Well, that's an audience, but maybe there's a Facebook group that you've already joined or that you could join, or you can create a Facebook group. And that
Mm-hmm.
thing that you've already been talking about, you just start talking about it in the group, and you invite the people who've already liked, the content that you've put out. And with
Mm-hmm.
that, you can then pair it with people in the community, because you can create an event. You can go to the library. You can still brunch. And if we're really mindful of how people market what's already going on around us, you'll see that people are in the community, and they're on their jobs, and they're at networking events, and they're on social media. But where are
Yeah.
you right now? Then
Yeah.
where are the people I'm trying to reach? Because I'm probably already talking to them somewhere. And then if I want to broaden that, how do I find that place? And if you're one that's not comfortable with maybe meeting face to face, and you'd rather be behind the phone or behind your computer screen, then that's fine too. But then finding some groups to join that's online, finding the content and following it. And then
Mm-hmm.
whatever area you're not educated in or you're not aware of, just making yourself aware, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of venturing out, from there. But know where you are, know where your
Yeah.
audience is, and then where you can
And
meet
I
up.
just want to say, two things to that. Authenticity is so
Mhm.
important. Short and sweet, and
Yep.
slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady
Yes.
wins the race.
Yes.
Michelle, what do you want to add to that?
Yes.
Because I know this is a passion and for you too, because you help people with platforms.
Well, I'm a little different in that people get very overwhelmed with
Yeah.
platforms. They get very overwhelmed with the whole gambit. Okay, well, I
Yeah.
want to write a book, but then I've got to do all this extra stuff, and I got to think about all this stuff, and I got to research all this stuff. Number one, just write. Just write.
Mm-hmm.
All that other stuff you'll learn along the way.
Yep.
All that other stuff, you'll figure it out. I agree with Kristie 100%. Start where you are. Just start
Yeah.
where you are, and you have to start writing. That is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
key, is start writing. If you feel led to do this, then you know God's going to bless it. God
Mm-hmm.
is going to help you along the way, but you have to start.
Mm-hmm.
You got to check your motive too. Because if
Yeah,
you're going into
absolutely.
it just, I'm trying to make money, I promise you, you will
This is
end up
not the place.
all over the place. Oh my goodness. You'll be like, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm on
Right.
Facebook, and I'm recording videos, and I got a YouTube channel and a podcast, and then I did brunch. You will be all over the place because you don't know
Yes.
where to sell. You don't know
Yes.
where to go to get people to buy. But if you build rapport, like slow, like she said, slow
Slow and
and
Yeah.
steady
steady,
wins the race.
slow and steady,
And
build rapport.
there's no replacement. No, we got to sit down and write, but we've also got to be out building relationships in our community too,
Yes.
because sitting behind a screen too much is too much. And I
Yeah.
know that it's good to get out and, like
Yep.
for me, I'm going to different group settings, just so that I can hear what's going on in the world. I mean, I can look at
Yep.
social media all day, but a lot of that is fake. But if I
Mhm.
go to this meeting on Thursday morning where there's 150 women there, I'm going to see what's really going on in the world, because I'm going to, first of all, sit at a table with 10 or 12 people. I'm going to be there an
Yes.
hour and a half, and I'm going to get a pulse of what's happening
Yep.
around me. That gives me content. That's where content comes from. Am I correct on that?
Mm,
Yes.
totally agree. Totally
Because
agree.
we have to
Yep.
know what's going on in the world, the real world,
Yeah. And you know what
not.
I wrote to go well, I wrote a note earlier, but it's like perfectly aligned, right? You're not purposed to sell, but remind yourself that I will save the person's name that I'm talking to, their interests, the like-mindedness. What about them intrigue me? What
Mhm.
information do they have that maybe can benefit me, and how can I benefit them? That building rapport and being in the community and talking to people is so important when you're not focused on the sale, but you're focused on saving something about someone or something that you can get involved in, get connected to, and then build from there. And even if you're using your social media, you shouldn't just be, scrolling your page, comment, liking on, posts when you're really thinking about, I have a message I need to get out. Find your people. Go and talk
Yeah.
about it on there and be Be authentic. And if somebody approaches you, if they click like or comment, be authentic even in the replies. Don't just do it for the likes. Like, oh, I'm just going to click like, because it's going to generate something. No, like think about what they said and find a genuine reply to it. Maybe it is getting in their DM and it's like, you know what? Let's start a conversation or a discussion around this, because it may be something that they said that you agreed with and all you click was agree, when you could have went a little bit more in depth. Now y'all like-minded on something. Get in the inbox if you got to. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal to connect with people.
So the big question, Michelle, where is God in all this? So God called us to do this, right? We all feel like God's called us to write, but yet we tend to get rushed. We tend to put personal pressure on ourselves. What do we do in the process in the meantime to really rest and know that our message is the right message? Because I think this is critical, to not getting ahead of ourselves by not getting ahead of God. And Michelle, both of y'all are really good at this, but Michelle, you've done counseling, you've done peer counseling. Both of y'all have done a lot of this working with people. How do we really connect with God and walk with him through this without getting influenced and dragged down by so many other people? That's the real critical part of writing.
Okay, so that's a very personal question. It's going to be different for everybody because I'm confident. So it's very easy to say, well, I have no other authority but God. But not everyone feels that way. And that's really, it's really difficult to say, well, I'm just not going to listen to any outside voices. So of course you're going to pray about it. But my husband gave me the best advice one time. And he said, you're publishing this because God told you to. Even if it's only for one person, and even if that one person is you. And that's where I feel like God connects us, is you're not doing it to reach 100,000 people. You're doing it because God told you to. He put it on your heart. And you know what God puts on your heart, he will fulfill. The work of your hands will not be in vain. So you just start working, and God, the work of your hands will not be in vain.
And there's the Psalm 90:17 that says, may the favor of the Lord our God rest upon us as you establish the work of our hands. Yes, you establish the work of our hands. I say that all the time. I'm like, okay, Lord, let it be your work, not mine, because I can do a lot of things. I have a lot of energy. So
I agree,
Kristie,
because I agree, because usually I'm saying, okay, Lord, you increase, I decrease. You increase, I decrease. Let not be my thoughts. Let it be your thoughts, not my words, but your words. It's real, because you're either going to be obedient or not. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Am I going to obey or not? And I like to say too, you don't have the luxury to not do what he told you to do. You don't have the luxury to not give somebody the message that they need, that they're going to get just from you. And then guess what else? That's for a season, because what you won't do, somebody else will.
Yes.
And you will see it come to pass and be like, I don't know why I did it. 10 years will go by and you may see it multiple times. It's like, I had the idea. I should have. You should never get into the I should have and I could have and I would have if. Just do it. Obedience is always key.
And don't let the devil minimize your story. So I've had so many people say, oh, you know what, though? I mean, I really don't have a story. Well, we all have a story. We've all lived a life. We've all had problems. Yeah, but, I'm really I don't really have anything big that really happened to me. And you can ask them just a few questions. Okay, well, are you a mother? Do you have children? Well, yeah, I have children, but I've never really had any big problems with them. I mean, we have a few little things. Well, how many other people out there feel the same way? How many other people out there that you could write to that may have had a problem with, rebellion with their child? Maybe it was even a small rebellion, but they feel like, oh, well, my problem's just not big enough to talk about. And they minimize their story. But if they read yours, they think, wait, I just went through this. And I can relate to this. And then it touches their heart. So don't let the devil minimize whatever story you have. We all have lived a life full of trauma, heartbreak, love, passion. Don't let the devil minimize that.
I'm saying you write for your life. And Michelle has said it so many times in this webinar, that you write for you, even if it starts there. But I tell people, and it just kind of became a tagline at some point, but I write for my life, but I especially write for the lives of others. You write for
Yes.
your life because it
Thank you,
will
Lord.
benefit you, even if it is journaling, just
Yes.
writing in your diary. You will benefit from it. It will give you the comfort and the peace that you need, or the deliverance and the healing, right? But you
Yes.
especially write for the life of someone else. There is
Yep.
somebody waiting for you to blaze that trail so they can come right behind you.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I said you don't have the luxury to not tear down the weeds. Like, who
Yeah.
are you to be like, yeah, I don't care if you get through. Somebody else will help you at some point. No, you can help them right now. You can turn the light
Mm.
on right now. You can blaze the trail right now. Yeah. Take
That's
yourself
so
out
well
there.
said. And so, and one of the things that I remember we talked about, and we had a writers conference here in Baton Rouge, and we had a really great turnout, is I think sometimes we think we're going to write a book and it's going to look like a book. But there's a lot of different things people are doing right now that are not just your traditional book. So why don't y'all throw some things out that may be good ideas? Because I was really surprised at some of the different options people are coming up with that may not look just like the normal book, but maybe a great approach and a really good idea.
I had
Either one of y'all.
recently I had someone start telling me about some good ideas that they had, but they didn't want to put it, they wanted to do children's books. And I'm like, a comic would be
Mm-hmm.
great because kids are really heavy into comic books and anime right now.
Yeah.
If you are already trying to reach the young adults or younger, and you don't want to go into that regular kid reading book, and you don't want it to be illustrated like all the others, and you're trying to stand out, animation, anime, comic books, really good idea. Coloring books.
Coloring books. Mm-hmm.
Yes, coloring books, even calendars. Now that's a new one too, because you can do, people are buying calendars. They are, if you make them really creative.
Oh, I
Planners,
love my
oh
calendar.
my goodness, planners, you can be really creative. Um, and it's just so many low content things you can do. Now, I'm not a fan. Nobody hate me. I'm not a fan of just these people who just do journals with the one little, word at the top. I feel like you can be so much more thoughtful with that, because you can do short stories and then get
Mm-hmm.
them the option to prompt to write their own short story, right? If you do want to do a journal or something like that. But just
Mm-hmm.
there's so many places to put the content that you have or the message that you want to share. And it
That's
depends on your
good.
audience, because if it
Michelle?
isn't, yeah, depends on your audience for
And see,
sure.
this is where God tells you to be who you are, because I don't give ideas like that. I want you to find your own idea. Whereas Kristie's so good at saying, look, here are so many wonderful different options. We're both such individuals who have different purposes. And I just believe that when God puts it on you, you'll know. It doesn't matter how odd it
Well,
is.
I
It
agree
Mm-hmm.
with
doesn't
that too.
matter. That's
That's good.
right. It doesn't matter how odd it is. It
Yes.
doesn't matter, how thick the book is. I tell people, oh, 14,000 words. That's a very small nonfiction, but it's still a book and
Yeah.
it still gets your message out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
thank
good.
you, ladies. You guys have been amazing. We've got some women in the chat room right now that have some questions for you. So we're going to interrupt this great conversation and your wisdom that you've been imparting to us tonight. We're excited to have our guests with us online as well. While we are wrapping up with our questions online, and those of you who are online with us, please do send in those next questions that you have in the chat room there, and I'll be happy to get those to our speakers tonight, these great women who have been sharing such wonderful things with us about writing and encouraging me even as a writer. Sometimes they say the best writer is the best way to write is just to seal the rear of your seat to the bottom of the chair. So
That'll
we
work too.
we
Yep.
just got to do it, right?
Yep.
And but share with us real briefly. We've had a question on how do we contact you and get a hold of you to be able to maybe speak with you more or learn from some of the materials that you have written already. Can you each of you share how we might? Do you have a Facebook account or Instagram account we could follow?
I'll
Kristie?
let Michelle, because we have like different we offer different things, and so I'll let Michelle Go ahead. And look, I don't have a problem with letting Michelle go, y'all, because she's really my mentor. She just doesn't know it.
Oh,
It says I'm nobody's
But
mentor.
y'all both have
She is.
websites. Y'all both have websites. I think if you just give your
Yes.
website, then you
Yes.
know, and maybe what your main thing is, I think we can
Yeah.
keep it simple enough.
Okay, well, my website, I have many, but my main website for me personally is michellejestermedia.com. And you can go on there and see everything I do, all the way from coaching, my books. You can go to my personal author website and all of my social media there. You can also go to my publishing company, which is ropeswingpublishing.com. My phone number's public, my personal cell phone's public. So I'm pretty easy to get in touch with. And like I said, michellejestermedia.com will get you to all of those things. So whatever you're interested in looking up.
And Jester is spelled Jester, Michelle with
Yes.
2 L's. Michelle Jester. Yes, that'd be great.
And
Kristie?
I will say they're both in the Influence Women too, so you can friend them
Yes.
there.
Yes. So contact us through the community page. Yes, they'll be right there for you. Absolutely. Good one.
And mine is
Kristie,
the
how-
same thing. So KristieGauthreaux.com. So just how my name is spelled on the screen, it's gonna be
Yes.
spelled like that everywhere, except for my Facebook and Instagram. I recently changed it to Fisher. But if you put in Kristie Gauthreaux, it may still pop up Kristie Fisher on just Facebook and Instagram. But you can reach me at KristieGauthreaux.com and everything's there. If you're just, full of ideas and you need coaching, that's there. And then all the way into actually publishing. Because
Yeah,
the
wonderful.
publishing, you can get
I
to the
do want to
publishing.
say, if you're going to Facebook me, use Michelle Jester, my personal page. I do have author Michelle Jester and I do have Michelle Jester media pages, but those are more for followers and fans of my books. So use my personal page and you'll contact with me a lot easier.
Wonderful.
And I published my book with Michelle. I came to her via, this is an important thing, guys. The people in your life, if you get to a place,
Yes.
say, who can I call, and just ask, what should I do next? And because I was at a place where I was about to do something really stupid, and my husband was telling me, don't do that, don't do that. And I was mad at him because he was telling me, don't do that. But I called a mutual friend of Michelle and I said, Matt, he's author, lots of books. I said, Max, what should I do? And he told me to call Michelle. So when you need help, don't just not ask somebody. That's why Influence Women is here to, Kathleen could say, I know somebody in Nashville. I know some,
Right.
If you need help, ask, because that may be the connection. And that's what I did. I tucked my tail at my husband. I was mad at him because he wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do. And I called, and it was so much better than anything I could have. He saved me, and I was mad at him. But call and ask people, can you help me? Will you tell me? Will you help me? Will you lead me? And that's Influence Women is all about. That's the whole point of the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can reach us at info@influencewomen.org, and you can reach Beth at Baton Rouge at influencewomen.org to ask her a question as well. And make
I'm
sure
BethTownsend.com. So
and BethTownsend.com. Yes, well, we'll get to you. And Kristie is Kristie. And her last name is spelled Gauthreaux. So she's a true Louisiana, and she's got that Louisiana last name, that French last name that we get it's a long name. So I always have to say I'm Kathleen Cooke with an E on the end, because people usually spell Cook without the E. Well, let's ask this first question. You say you write, Estelle wrote this question for us. You say, write my story and not worry about it, or worry about the platform. Is it okay to just write a book for yourself?
Kristie?
Oh yeah.
They're all shaking their heads.
I got
Yes.
plenty of books that have not left my flash drive or notebooks.
Yes. And I've been writing for many, many years, and you can see here, these are my books that I haven't even published yet,
Look at that.
just of my own. These are all covers. So yes, write for yourself, especially if it's
Yes.
something you love to do. But
Yes.
don't be surprised if God asks you to publish it. Don't be surprised, because the work of your hand won't be in vain. I mean, even if
Yep.
it is just for you, but don't be
Yep.
surprised if God asks you to do something more with it.
Yep.
And I'll
Beautiful.
say that I decided to write a book. It was probably 25 years ago, and it wasn't until 2020 that God said yes to it. But God completely changed the story, and God completely changed who I was, and in that process, the story became one that was I was a much more healed person as a result of what God did while I wrote the book. So while I was wanting to get published, God was like, I know, just
Right.
hold on. But he changed who I was in the process. And I would have published the wrong book had I steamrolled past God. And this is very important, because he said, no, 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 no. And I kept saying, yes, 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 because I can make things happen. We are energetic media people. But I'm saying, yes, write for yourself, but let God have your heart, and just let him just do all this to it, because it's good stuff.
Great.
Think about it like this: write from a better place and not a bitter place, because
Yes.
whatever you put out is going to transfer into somebody else's life. So if you're
Yeah.
writing from a bitter place and you're still resentful and you're putting all of those feelings into that book, when they go to read it, they're going to feel it. And if they're already hurting, you're not helping.
Yes.
So write from a better place. Sometimes that's why it is good to pause, because it
Yeah.
may not be for somebody else. Just
Great.
then. It might be just for you right then, and that's okay.
Yes. Well, Estella, you had a second question as well, and that was, do either of you could recommend some books that have been especially good for you to have on your library that you can refer to that has grown your writing skills?
But I read all day, every day. So there are just way too many. I literally read constantly. I think that's one of the biggest skills to have when you're a writer, is reading.
Yeah.
Just get out
I
there and
was
read.
about to say I don't have any specific books that are just based on writing skills. I think it's just in the reading.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. It's
I'm
definitely
reading
in the
Jordan
reading.
Peterson right now. And let me just tell you, my son challenged me to read a Jordan Peterson book. So I have to read it like this, because he is way above my head up here. He's way up here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what that word means. But he is really challenging me to think about what's happening in my brain. And I need to learn that. So I think that it's good to find authors that we enjoy, but I also think it's good to find authors we don't enjoy for the right reasons, because I'm not really enjoying reading his book, because I'm realizing I've got a lot to learn, but I'm so enjoying reading his book because I'm learning.
I
Yes.
felt
That
like
makes
that about
sense.
Atomic
Yeah.
Habits. If y'all have ever read
Atomic
Atomic
yeah.
Habits,
Yes.
who was a hard read. It took
Yeah.
me 2 times to be like, oh, okay. But the first time it was very difficult, because it was challenging some things in my
Yeah.
life and some habits. So yeah, sometimes it's read the difficult things too, but definitely reading inspires writing.
Challenge
Yeah.
yourself. Read things that are
Yes.
hard, that are different. I love to read at night for fun, but boy, I'm really challenging myself this year to read books that really step all over my toes. And I think that opens my mind up to what people. I mean, Jordan Peterson is one of the top selling authors. So as an author and a speaker, I need to know what the big deal is about this guy, because people are loving him. And so, I mean, if someone is a top selling author, it's a good reason to read their book and see what it is people want to read in that book.
Yes. I think in order to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. The better reader you are, the better writer you will be. So important.
Yeah.
As we wrap up tonight, is there one final maybe period we would put at the end of the sentence, not to put it in a writing term, that you would want to share tonight, as your one big thing that you've learned and would encourage someone who's wanting to begin writing, to begin that journey, that you would say to them? One big thing.
Are you asking us or
Yes,
the audience?
yes, the speakers, yes. Beth, Michelle, Kristie, what's that one big thing that motivates you, that maybe it's a challenge that you've had that you've overcome? What's that one big thing that you would say has been a motivator for you with writing?
So I'll just say that I have learned, I turned 60 and I look back over my whole life and I sum everything up in 4 words: better me, better we. So I'm worth whatever effort it takes to become all of what God called me to be. And all the effort I want to put on fixing everyone else is all the effort I put into me. So as you write, think about better me results in better we's. So I'm going to be my best me, because me and God are going to walk through this. And you're worth whatever it takes for you to become the best version of yourself. So get quiet, get still, and pray about who you are so that you can be just that person, but every bit of 100% that person. So when you walk at, I'll tell you something I learned from Jordan Peterson. The posture in which you carry yourself into the world will determine everyone's response to you, how you carry yourself into the world. That's why I'm reading books like that, because I believe this. So you're worth whatever it takes for you to do what God's called you to do, and to do it better than everyone else.
And
Good.
mine is along the same lines, which I think Kristie's is probably going to be also, because we believe in this. Be authentically you. Just be you.
Mhm.
Look, you see my hair, big, huge, 80s, which a lot of people say hair. I have had this same hairstyle for years. It's me. I love it. My husband loves it. It's just who I am. And through the 90s phase of everybody straightening their hair, I didn't care. This is me. And be you. If you love to wear pearls, wear pearls. If you don't like to wear any jewelry, don't wear. Be you. Don't change for other people. Don't change on what you think other people want, because God wants you to be you. Whatever your experiences are, bring it to the table. And love yourself. It's really hard to love yourself sometimes, but you have to love yourself the way God loves you. Be yourself, be authentic, and then help raise up other women along the way. I believe that is my number one message is, it's not just about you. Your name may not be attached to everything you've helped get to a place, such as a book or a friend or another publishing company, but you're in it. You're helping that other person. So be you and help where you can.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that there is a variety of people in the world, an endless amount of different personalities, and there's a
Yes.
book for everyone out there, isn't there?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right,
Like I said
Kristie?
earlier, I'm just going to say what I said earlier because it ties it all together. There is a divine assigned audience for your message.
Yes.
And it's your message. It is who you are, not somebody else's, not something I adopted from someone else. It's not somebody else's thoughts. It's not their story. It's not, oh, that sounds good. I should use a little bit of that. No, it is, what are you supposed to be talking about? What is your story?
Yes.
What is authentically you? And you show up like that. And
Yes.
there's an audience specifically for you. Like there's literally an audience. They may even show up looking like you. There may be a whole lot of Beths out there, right? We may not have seen them, but if they see her, they're like, oh my God, I love her, because she's so authentic. She's just herself. And then she ends up meeting an audience of people who are just themselves. They wear their hair however they want. They wear the clothes you can't tell them to change. They're not easily influenced. Like they just show up authentically them, because that's her audience, because that's what she puts out. Whatever you put out is what you pull in. So when you show up as yourself, your audience is already there, ready and waiting. Keyword, waiting, because
Yes.
they're waiting on you to show up. They're
Mhm.
waiting on you to deliver the message. They're waiting on you to put the book out.
Yeah.
You don't have the
And
luxury
so
to not
much,
show up.
and so much of what people are looking for today is the real deal. Who can I really
Yes.
connect with? Who is real? Because there's so much
Yes.
fake, y'all. There's so much fake.
Yes.
There's so much pretend.
Yes.
And people can spot it. They know it when
Oh,
they
yeah.
see it, but they know reality too. And
Yeah.
that's what we're called to be, real.
Yeah. And can I add to, a lot of y'all are going to, get excited or whatever, and you're going to get off of here and you're going to think, well, I really don't want to reach out to Beth or Michelle or Kristie because, maybe they won't remember me, or maybe they too busy, or they can't help me. But that's why we're here. We're here to help
Exactly.
other women.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
We are real.
don't feel, yeah,
We
don't,
We are
exist.
real.
yes, and
We
don't
do
be
this. We
intimidated.
do this.
Yeah, and we
It's
love it.
real. We're
We
not
love
doing
it.
this for the webinar, right, Beth and
That's
Michelle?
right.
We're not doing this for the webinar. This is
Estelle
really
says,
us
don't worry. She's going to
in real
contact
life.
us. Okay,
That's right.
Estelle.
And
I'm so glad. That's
yeah,
good.
just don't be intimidated at
Yeah.
all. Reach out to one of us, reach out to all three of us. I mean, we all
Yeah.
free talk all the time. We're in this together. So that's why we're here. So please do reach out. Don't feel intimidated in any way.
No.
Love that. Love that so much. And that's why we have Influence Women. We
Yeah.
created Influence Women so that we could come together as a community of women to grow our skills and talents
Yes.
and to share with one another. My theme this year is what I call the 4 C's. We are Influence Women. We come together to connect, the first C, so that we can collaborate and be able to create the third C, for Christ's kingdom, the 4th C. And ultimately, actually, there's a 5th C, and that's to change the cultural thinking we have today, to change our culture for toward a biblical foundation, and for us to grow together as a community of believers and encouraging each other. You guys have been amazing tonight. I know there are so many more questions and so many more things that women want to be asking, but they have your heart and your mind, and I know they're going to be contacting you. Thank you for your gracious offerings of being able to continue this conversation with other women, even past this webinar. And if those of you who are listening right now and part of this broadcast that we'll be sending out in the future, you can ask those questions at info@influencewomen.org. We'll be happy to pass those on to Michelle and Beth and Kristie as well. It's been great having you with us tonight. Again, I want to encourage you to join us for the Influence Women podcast. Become a member of Influence Women at influencewomen.org. Also, join us for our many events that we have around the United States at our 7 chapter groups. Get to know us online and become a part of our community. We want to see you do what God's called you to do and be the best you can possibly be. So write, grow, grow, and go with God tonight. Thanks again, Kristie, Michelle, and Beth, for sharing with us so beautifully tonight.
Thank you for having us. Thank y'all for all your
Yes.
Thank you.
comments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
I've
you
seen
for
your
everything.
comments
Yeah.
going by. It's good to see you all.
God
Yes.
bless you all, and now go write it. We're
Yes.
going to want to
Go
read
write
it. Go write
Go
it.
write it.
Thank y'all for having us. We really enjoyed
Yes,
it. It's an
thank you.
honor to be here. We really
We
appreciate
loved
it.
it.
Yes.
Thanks
right.
so much.
Enjoyed
God
it.
bless.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.